Good news, everyone! We now officially have an undisputed candidate for the worst Fire Emblem game ever made. A few hours ago, Fire Emblem Shadows dropped onto Android and Apple mobile devices, pitching itself as a role-playing social deduction game. As people rapidly started making Among Us jokes on Twitter, I downloaded the game, which at the time only had 5 users, and quickly found that this game uses the Fire Emblem IP, but is not a strategy game. It's an auto-battler where the only player intervention is to drag and drop spells onto the map. The gameplay is devoid of thought and is extremely shallow even compared to other mobile games. Each battle has 3 participants and plays out in 2 phases. One of the 3 players is a traitor and tries to sabotage the fight, while the other 2 try to win. The mechanism by which this is done is by dragging and dropping spells as your characters auto battle. After this, there is a voting round where people try to decide who the traitor is. No matter how the votes fall, the battle then concludes with the traitor transforming into a monster and then fighting the other 2 players. Once again, the only intervention available to any player is to drag and drop spells onto the map as the characters themselves auto battle. One curious thing is that this voting gimmick so far doesn't seem to actually matter, and the game itself tells you that it doesn't really either. If you're on the good side and vote wrong, you still get an extra life. If you're on the bad side, the only difference if you're exposed or not is if your enemies get extra lives. Regardless, all of this ends up being pointless because the actual gameplay itself is comically shallow. So let's talk about how this game, quote unquote, is in any way related to Fire Emblem, because it barely feels like it is. The music is clearly remixed Fire Emblem battle themes, and it is made by Intelligent Systems, though it seems to be co-produced by DINA, a Japanese mobile game company. There are some characters that are already taken from Fire Emblem, such as Lyn, who appears as a centaur person, and Damager, who is a lion man. 2 starting characters you get are clearly references to Cain and Abel, but all the other characters seem to be entirely unrelated, as if they're from a different series entirely. The cinematics remind me of the Fire Emblem Hero cinematics, and bizarrely, after opening the shop, there is an entire 2.5-minute cutscene where several characters I haven't seen before bicker while funny footstep style music plays in the background. It's bizarre. It's surreal. It's just surreal. I don't say this lightly, but I think they've officially made the worst Fire Emblem game of all time, because it's barely Fire Emblem and also barely a game. To me, it seems like they just took the skeleton of another mobile game and then draped over a thin veneer of Fire Emblem onto it. Perhaps I'm being hasty in my judgment, but everything I've seen so far just screams that this is a horrifying patchwork abomination. This is probably why they shadow dropped it with no marketing. What's most interesting to me is why Intelligent Systems will be willing to put the Fire Emblem brand at risk by licensing it to what is clearly a bad phone game that has nothing to do with Fire Emblem. What possible benefit could they reap by doing this? I feel like I've hit my head and I'm still wandering through an alternate nightmare dimension. All I can do, and perhaps all you can do, is just to pretend that this didn't happen, so you can protect your psyche from witnessing man-made horrors beyond your comprehension.